first aid, the sorting of the wounded, but the most serious cases first. The Civil War brings in a series of innovations that form the basis of battlefield medicine to this day. 20,000 women sign on as nurses during the war. Clara Barton herself goes on to found the American Red Cross. Standards of hygiene begin to dramatically improve with the discovery of bromine. This caustic chemical is effective against the bacteria that cause gangrene. As a result, nearly 3/4 of amputees survive surgery, and gangrene becomes rare by the war's end. With the war dragging on without a clear end in sight, Lincoln is increasingly forced to fight on a very different front: the war for public opinion. The spread of portable cameras means for the first time, gory images of the battlefield can now reach every home. While these simple cameras rule out dramatic action scenes, they are ideal for capturing the gruesome aftermath of battle. As many as 1,500 photographers flood the battlefield. Their images are sold widely to members of the public for as little as 25 cents.
It was war photography coming back from the Civil War that captured it in a way, made it real, and made people recognize the really extraordinary, unprecedented violence.
America's growing newspaper mass media reproduces simple woodcuts of the images. More than 200 correspondents cover the war, filing over 100 million words of copy. This deluge of information about the war ensures the grim reality of this conflict is seared into the public consciousness. Never again will politicians be able to fight wars without public support. The war means a soldier is 5 times more likely to die than a civilian. Where families used to grieve for the dead at home, now men die on the battlefield. It forces a fundamental shift in the rituals surrounding death. Nat Bowditch dies on a battlefield in Virginia. Yet his family in Boston can still say goodbye to their son, killed 500 miles away.
Are you reading this, Mr.?
Even though it has taken a week for his body to travel from the battlefield, his father describes how it is free of any signs of decomposition.
Though the marks of closely contested battle were still upon the face, the features were placid, as if he was sleeping.
That's because of the new technique known as embalming. Chemicals like arsenic and zinc chloride are injected into the corpse to halt the natural process of decay. The business of death and the preservation of bodies turns undertakers into overnight millionaires. One undertaker boasts,
"I would be glad to prepare private soldiers. They were worth a $5 bill apiece. But Lord bless you, a colonel pays 100 and a brigadier general 200.
If you've got the money, all sorts of new techniques are available. Airtight coffins and embalming are most popular. And for the wealthiest, even elaborate refrigerated coffins packed with ice. The war drags on. Lincoln is determined to end it, and abolish slavery. In September 1862, he gives the South an ultimatum: rejoin the Union. He threatens to forcibly liberate their slaves if they refuse. But the South, having tasted independence, does not want to rejoin a union where slavery would be at risk. They reject the ultimatum. Lincoln is in no mood to negotiate. If the South won't free their slaves, he will do it himself.
For white Southerners, it was a confirmation that their thoughts about Lincoln all along, that he was, in fact, somebody who was bent on destroying what they thought was the Southern way of life. In the North, in a sense, it gave people a different understanding of what the war was about.
On January 1st, 1863, Lincoln issues a proclamation abolishing slavery in the rebellious southern states. Thanks to the telegraph, the news quickly spreads.
On the first day of January in the year of our Lord, 1863,
Lincoln had totally grown to where he said that not only should blacks not be slaves, they should be treated as equal citizens with full enfranchisement, right to vote, right to participate.
all persons held as slaves shall be then, henceforth, and forever free.
In the wake of Lincoln's emancipation of the slaves, black American soldiers rushed to enlist for the Union. Almost 200,000 sign up by the end of the war. General James Blunt describes their skill as fighters.
I never saw such fighting as was done by the Negro Regiment. They make better soldiers in every respect than any other troops I have ever had under my command.
The Emancipation Proclamation changes the dynamics of the war. The Union Army becomes a force for liberation, now fighting to end slavery.
They understood that saving the Union would give them some sense of freedom, some sense of dignity. It was the dignity that I'm a soldier. I'm not just a servant, I'm a soldier. I have a uniform, I have stripes. I'm somebody.
Lincoln follows the proclamation with his masterstroke. His address in 1863, dedicating America's first national cemetery for soldiers at Gettysburg, is perhaps the single most famous piece of political rhetoric in history.
77 years ago, our fathers brought forth upon this nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal.
That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from this earth.
It is an emotional thing to think about people sacrificing, giving their lives for an ideal. And it's Lincoln at his absolute best. The genius, the simplicity that conveys a great amount.
It's spiritual in a way. It's a hymn to America, and it's the hymn to the possibilities and the great sacrifices of this country.
But in 1864, the war remains deadlocked. With an election looming and a challenge coming from those who want to negotiate a peace with the South, Lincoln knows he needs to land a decisive blow.
At some point, somebody gets tired, somebody blinks, somebody makes a mistake. And when you're talking about war, that mistake, it's everything.
Lincoln puts the North's entire industrial might behind one final push. The man who will lead the charge from Chattanooga to Atlanta, William Sherman. His orders to stop for nothing.
I would make this war as severe as possible and show no symptoms of tiring till the South begs for mercy.
Advancing under the cover of night, Sherman's march is sustained by one of the greatest logistical operations yet seen in this conflict. Sherman knows he needs to throw everything he's got at the Confederate Army. While he uses his own supply lines to maximum effect, he destroys those of the South, ripping up their railroad and bending it beyond use. In one day, the North's supply lines replaced 200,000 bullets. While the South is left scavenging on the battlefield for spent rounds, food, even old boots. Sherman calls it total war, a scorched earth approach that becomes the trademark of modern warfare. Finally, with Atlanta under siege, Confederate forces set fire to their own munition stores before abandoning their city to the Union soldiers. Sherman's tactics of total war have won out. His victory helped secure Lincoln's election in the fall. With Atlanta in ruins, he just keeps going, now launching what will be his final assault, the March to the Sea. In the 19th century equivalent of shock and awe, 62,000 Union soldiers wreak a 60-mile wide path of destruction across Georgia. From Atlanta to the coast at Savannah. Supply lines are cut, villages are sacked, and crops torched. Anything of military value is destroyed. Within 6 months, General Lee has tendered the Confederate Army's surrender. The rebellion is over. The South will have to submit to the Union and bring an end to slavery.
By the act of winning, the North both validated freedom and validated the industrial model. And so you have an American confidence, an American sense of achievement, an American willingness to go out around the world.
For all the Confederacy's commitment, its inferior logistical infrastructure has been no match for the North's unstoppable war machine. Its industrial